All right, we'll go ahead and call this Planning Commission meeting to order this Wednesday, February 8th, 2023, the hour 7 p.m. here at City Council chambers. First item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please rise and recite with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, next item on our agenda is a roll call. Commissioner Hammer?
Here.
Commissioner Proctor?
Here.
Commissioner Sloan?
Here.
Commissioner Jensen?
Here.
Commissioner Newell?
Here.
Let's please excuse Commissioners Gochus, Dunn, and Robinson. From City Council, we have Councilman Hanson and Councilwoman Manzione. From City Staff, we've got Mr. Hanson, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Baker, and Mr. Bolzer. And Mr. Agard, of course. How can I always forget you? You're always talking to us. Thank you. Looking right at me. All right, number 3 on our agenda here is a public hearing and decision on a conditional use permit request by Tooele County School District to authorize public use on approximately 4 acres of property located at 101 South Industrial Loop Road in the Industrial Zoning District. Mr. Agard.
Thank you, Commissioners. So the proposed application for the conditional use permit involves the 4-acre parcel highlighted in red on the aerial photograph. It's just south of Cabela's and east of Industrial Loop Road. Detroit Diesel is located on the property over to the east. And then you'll see there's some construction going on there. That is the current site of the Tooele County School District transportation depot, where they house their buses and fleet and so forth. So the property is currently zoned industrial, as are all of the surrounding properties. And then this is a site plan showing what they're proposing to do. They're proposing the construction of a fuel depot, which will be available for use by pretty much the state, the county, the city, the school district. Obviously, it'll primarily serve the district's vehicles, but any public vehicle can go out there and fuel up. So that's what's being proposed. It's listed as a public use because our ordinance does not specifically include a standalone fuel depot. But this is obviously a public use, and staff is confident that it falls underneath that category. So we're recommending approval of the conditional use permit with the basic conditions listed in your staff report, along with some other information that was included in the report. And if the Planning Commission has any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer those for you.
All right, let's go ahead and bring this back to the commission for any questions or comments.
I just have one. I don't know if it's a question or comment.
Mr. Proctor.
Is this in addition to the one on 900 South, or will it replace the one on 900 South?
I don't know. I believe it's in addition to, but I don't know for sure. Maybe the applicant can address that. I don't know. Anybody else have any ideas? But I haven't heard anything about that.
That was more curiosity. So,
Commissioner Jensen?
I know I read the packet, and I know it's not a site plan review, but I was just on the plan that you have up right now, the 2 approaches that are on the right-hand side, that they're not going to be there. I don't remember the site plan from the original bus or the bus garage that they're building. Does this change any access points or anything for that property? To where it would cause a issue with that property as far as the fire access and things like that?
You know, I can't remember the site plan. I can't see that in my mind right now.
I don't know if Michael knows or. Okay. That was all I had.
Okay, any other further questions for staff? All right, this item does require a public hearing. We'll have the applicant wait till after I close the public hearing, then I'll give you time to address the commission on your own there. So we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this particular item on the agenda. Seeing no one approach, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this item. And if the applicant would like to come up, and please state your name for the record and then write it on the paper provided, please.
So I'm Michael Garcia with the school district. And so to answer the first question, When you talked about the replacing the one on 9th South, you're talking the one, near the current bus garage and the city shops.
Right.
So that would still remain a state fueling site. This would just be an additional fueling site that we would still probably have buses on there. It would just be an extra option. This just allows us to be part of a bigger purchasing group and get better pricing on fuel than if we were trying to do it on our own, and then the state helps with some of the maintenance and maintaining and delivery. So that's why we're looking at doing it. And then for your question on the site plan, I guess you mentioned that, which approaches were you talking about?
Well, just the two that are circled in red that said that aren't going to be there. I don't know.
Oh, okay, and
My-
those were not there in the original.
Okay.
So at first, we were going to make this all internal and not have an access and not make it a state site. But as we got looking into it, we thought there were benefits to have a state site, but one of the requirements the state had is it has to be accessible 24/7. And so those approaches we put in early in construction while we were potentially going to be doing this. And so because they're in, we're not going to take them out, but this is a pretty rough site plan. Because we're waiting to get it back from our engineers. So it really didn't change anything on the site at all.
On
That was
your
approved.
previous site,
Previous,
was,
yeah,
there's no
the-
access change there.
We had mentioned a future fueling site on the initial, but it was going to be to the south of there. But for future bus parking, we thought it would make more sense to push the bus parking to the south if that happened in the future. And then so that's where we decided to move the fuel to where we're looking at doing it now.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Anything you'd like to let us know before we make a decision?
No, we're just we're looking forward to it. We think it'll be good for everybody, all the state entities, just another opportunity, another location if one of them goes down. But we're, like I said, we're trying to get it finalized with the site plan, so we're happy to take any comments and suggestions to make it good and safe for everybody.
All right, any other questions or comments from the commission? All right, Mr. Garcia, I appreciate it. Thank you. All right, we'll bring this back to the commission for further action. I'll entertain a motion on this.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve the conditional use permit request by Michael Garcia representing the Twila County School District to authorize the use of public use to occur at 101 East Industrial Loop Road, application number P23-55, based on the findings and subject to the conditions listed in the staff report dated January 2nd, 2023.
I have a motion to approve from Commissioner Jensen. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
A second from Commissioner Hammer. Commissioner Hammer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor? Aye. Commissioner Sloan?
Aye.
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Newell?
Aye.
And I am Chairman Hamilton. I also vote aye. This one passes 6-0. Moving to number 4 on our agenda is a presentation regarding the downtown master plan. It's a review of a focus group and survey results, discussion of the main topics. And before we get started, I will just disclose for the record, I am the chairman of the Downtown Alliance. We're not taking anything to a vote, so it doesn't affect anybody tonight, but I thought I'd just get that out there.
Just disqualify yourself from the discussion.
All right, if you would, state your name for the record and
Thank
then
you,
write it down,
Chair.
please.
Jake Young. I'm a city planner, designer, and landscape architect and consultant. So happy to be working with Twila City and with your team and Jared. I just want to share a couple observations. Been to Twila a few times in the last year. This is my first time coming to Twila City in the evening time. The downtown was kind of a ghost. When I hit the couple blocks down, I slowed down as much as I could legally and just observing where all the lights were on and activity happening. And certainly there's a bunch of businesses open now, but most at 6:30 p.m. are shut down. And I think you have the second longest Main Street in America.
It just seems like it at that time.
But that's not a fact for sure. The longest Main Street, does anybody know where the longest Main Street in America is?
Maxon, isn't it?
Where was that?
In Island Park?
Yes, Island Park. That's exactly right. You ever been to Millette? Millette is long too. It's long. And my other observation, and I've noticed this before, and this is no surprise to you, is before you hit downtown, you pass every chain, food joint, or store known to Utah. I mean, you pass them all coming. I notice you even got a kebab now and other ones. And so where downtown is at the end of the line in terms of the valley, you have to give a lot of really good reasons to come here. End of the line, I mean, passing all these places, because I did grab a bite coming in town, and I just kept seeing all these options because I was kind of hungry. And it's like, wow, there's so many options that downtown is combating against in terms of attracting. So just a couple observations. We're a few months into this process. We had a survey, over 600 responses, really good participation from your public, a lot of really good input. I believe you received that last month or in December. And I encourage you to take a look at that if you haven't. The public has spoken on that. And then we also had the focus groups. I know some of you came. Thank you. And a lot of good input on the focus groups in terms of Downtown Alliance, businesses, employees, staff, elected officials. So a lot of good input there. And I'm going to go on to the next slide. There we go. So where we're at in the process is we're preparing for an open house in March. Very casual, presenting some of these main ideas. We wanted the Planning Commission and city to see this before we take it to the public and ask for input. And that's what we're doing today. And then after that, we'll go ahead and prepare a downtown master plan, and that'll be part of your general plan. At least that's been the discussion, is it'll be a chapter in the general plan and drop into the document. And we like it that way because it works with all your other planning documents, your moderate income housing, your land use, your transportation chapter. So it'll work together. And also it's nice not necessarily I don't like having a lot of floating documents and plans out there for cities. They tend to get lost. Cities that have a separate downtown plan or separate this and that, as much as can go into the general plan is a good practice, really helps out. So on your screen is the downtown area that's already been designated by the city. What's the north and south on that, Jared?
It's roughly Utah Avenue to 2nd South.
Utah Avenue to 2nd South, and then Garden on second north. Thank you. Garden on the east, and then which is essentially 50 east to 50 west, with the little cutouts. So what I'd like to do today is present some of what we've prepared so far, and actually receive your input as we go. Consider this a dialogue, a discussion, and we just have 6 goals with strategies on how to achieve them, and then a vision. And I like to just, so pretty much just seven slides with content. The other ones are pictures. So I'd like to just kind of read those and then hear your input and talk about it. And think about this as we're kind of at this medium level. We've talked high level in terms of receive the input, what's the public thinking, what are the big ideas. Now we're kind of at this medium level, and then the lower detail level will happen in the document in terms of what are the details of how to make this happen. But this is and so for each topic there'll be a goal. What's the big idea we want to achieve for that topic, and then strategies. And think about the strategies as the city's not committed to doing all of them, but here's a list of ways to achieve that goal and moving forward. And then also in your general plan or your downtown plan document will be action items. What should the city be doing in the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years in terms of making progress? And Jared, please jump in at any point, add on, correct me, whatever it may be. So here's kind of the draft vision that we've prepared. Tooele's historic center and downtown will redevelop into a vibrant center and become the heart of the community. Main Street and adjacent areas become recognized as a local and regional destination. Downtown is reimagined as a significant place for business, living, entertainment, and gathering. Thoughts on that? Things that we're missing, you don't like? Want it to be concise and understandable. And as I read this is different than the rest of your Main Street. I mean, you have all the nice traditional restaurants, but downtown is different. Place to gather, entertainment, it can be a destination. It's what can make Tooele even more unique.
It's our goal. I like it.
Can I ask a question, Chairman?
Yes, please, Mr. Baker.
I just wonder if you could give me your insight as to what you mean by the heart of the community. It has to be a lot more than a geographic center or retail center. What is the heart of the community to you?
I think it's identity. It's unique places, plazas, parks, outdoor gatherings, unique architecture, maybe some nice, I'll just use the word kind of destinations, a museum, something just unique. And it may be a little gritty, or it may be more, modern. You certainly don't have a lot of mixed use living in Tooele, where somebody could be living in an urban or semi-urban area and walk a block to get a bite to eat or go somewhere, that kind of thing. And each downtown is unique. Ogden City, 25th Street, that's kind of the heart of Ogden, along with they've got this big park up the street and it goes into Kiesel. So I mean it's a few blocks. It's kind of an L-shaped downtown, and that's the heart of they do the parade there, and certainly events. And you do events. I know you do a lot of events in the downtown, and I think that would go with the heart. Other people's thoughts on ways to make downtown a good beating heart?
It's because my business is there, Roger. That's why it's the heart.
That's my destination right there. That's top bills in town.
Yep.
I mean, I drove past the movie theater, and there are a few cars there. I mean, I'm sure it's busy on the weekend, but that didn't look like the heart. Your second lost cousin's coming to town, and you want to take them somewhere cool in Tooele. Where do you go?
Another man's treasure.
Another man's treasure.
I'm taking the Tyson's.
There you go.
In the heart of downtown Tooele.
There you go.
Notice your truck's not parked in any of these pictures. Where were you?
No, I like this because this is our goals. I mean, this is not where it's at right now. Obviously, we've got a lot of work to do, but this captures our goals and what we want and our vision behind all the work we're putting into this. So, I mean, it's a lot of work, and we're having fun doing it, right, Jared?
Cool. And you can always follow up. Send Jared an email. He'll get it to me, and we can tweak things. So anything else on the vision?
I'm way more interested in the strategy.
Okay, let's do it. Let's jump in. Okay.
I want to know how we get there.
So we got six goals and strategies, and this is where brainstorming things that we can add. Main Street, and that's looking at the street, essentially the UDOT right of way, and then also the streetscape. So the back of curb to the building frontage, essentially including the facades. That's kind of where we talk about Main Street and streetscape, and particularly focusing on Main Street because that is the main core of it. Collaborate with UDOT to change downtown Main Street into a place that is safe, comfortable, and pleasant for people walking, biking, driving vehicles, and using transit. And then, of course, transit's in future. We're thinking ahead. And what's unique about this goal is they're actually pulling UDOT into this goal. It's kind of saying Tooele can't do this alone. We know Tooele doesn't own the right of way and have all the control there, so we're pulling UDOT into it. And I know you're doing the UDOT Main Street project, and we've been coordinating and talking, and we've even talked about this being whatever UDOT does for Tooele actually ends up in this document together, and so we're almost kind of binding them to you, which I think is your benefit. Strategies: implement traffic calming methods, and the next slide I'll show some of those, and there's a lot of ways of doing that. Beautify the streetscape with street trees, planter beds with plants, and seasonal pots with flowers. And I actually did add plants there because I've seen a lot of cities that even have those nice planter beds and nothing in them. Install additional streetscape furniture, including benches, banners, light posts, drinking fountains, and raised planter beds. And I'm going to go to the next slide here. And these are some of those traffic calming ways. And there's a really long list of those. And I think that in the document is where all of those would be shown. The curb extensions, the landscape medians, and all kinds of, and what we're hearing from UDOT is they're telling Tooele that you have to put these things in, and then they'll adjust the speed afterwards. Maybe we can push them on that, but that's what we're hearing at least. And I think, oh yeah, there's one more of that. The curb bulb out, of course, biking facilities, planters, just a lot of, it's essentially making it look, attractive, busy. You want to kind of slow the cars down, that kind of thing. So suggestions, going back to this, comments on strategies. We could even list, if there were preferred traffic calming methods, we could list those under that strategy. Anything that you think that we're missing or you don't like?
I think sounds like a great idea, and I think it would be beautiful, but I think it would be hard to select, because it might be dead right now in downtown on Main Street, but I drive through there several times a day in the middle of the day. There's semis, there's a lot of big trucks. It's almost like we need another route to get those trucks through town without being on Main Street to be able to do this and turn downtown into what it needs to be. It's kind of my feeling.
And the bypass is in the long range plan, correct?
Yes.
But it's long range.
It's long range, and that's one of our biggest pushes on the Downtown Alliance, is if we finished a 2-3 mile stretch on the south end of town, it would pull the trucks off at Main Street. But UDOT's got to do that too, so.
Okay.
We have had those discussions with them, but yes, that is a great idea, and as long as we keep pushing that.
Should we add that, a strategy regarding the bypass, support UDOT in working on the bypass? I mean, they're certainly connected.
Designated truck route.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys talk about Phase 3 Mid-Valley Highway and where it's going to tie into all that?
We didn't get into specific details, but they said that there are ways out with that one, but they did bring us a map that had different routes that they had lined out for it, but we did talk to them about the south end. And we pushed it pretty hard. Where it's going to go, I don't know, but
It's just
talking
hard.
about it's the first
the only
first
decent
step.
road through town,
Mm-hmm.
through the whole valley.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mormon Trail's in bad shape. Any other way you go, it's
True.
Only decent road through town.
True. And the question is, downtown's just a few blocks. Is it worth just slowing down? I mean, you've probably seen, there's a lot of those in the West and all over where you're out, Highway 50, 66, whatever it is, 89, and you hit that, you're going 55, and then you hit the downtown, and you gotta go down to 25, and
Yeah, well,
And-
I think about like Lehigh 25 years ago to get to Utah Valley. If you went the back way, you had to go through Lehigh, through, I guess, their Main Street. And once they made that bypass, if you do drive through the old Main Street the way it used to go now, it's amazing. They have a lot of these features you're talking about, and it's a lot different, a lot
For that
nicer.
area rather than trying to get through it.
Yeah,
Going to it.
you're going point to it. It
a
is more of a
destination.
destination, so.
Yeah.
But I think what helped a lot was that bypass route to keep all the major traffic, which, I mean, you want traffic going through for businesses
But not
too,
semi-trucks.
but not semi-trucks and stuff.
Gravel trucks.
Yeah, we don't need
Yeah.
gravel
5
trucks.
miles an hour ignoring the street light.
Most of those trucks don't want to be on Main Street either. They want to get off as soon as
Yeah, they don't
possible
want to be
too,
on,
so.
you're right.
And by doing these traffic calming, it actually can speed up that process because,
Then it forces.
yeah,
The state to maybe do something.
Main Street downtown becomes less attractive as a truck route coming through.
Makes sense.
Okay, so we add something about supporting UDOT with the bypass and the truck route. Are those two separate things? Are they eventually the same thing?
They'll eventually mold into the same thing, but if we can get them to look at that in advance. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay, good.
Jared knows exactly what we're talking about, so.
Okay, good. Anything else on this one?
It'd just be, maybe getting on that section, like, lower the speed limit, then the trucks, and then all these companies that bring the trucks through will start complaining, hey, we're wasting time, and maybe it'll push them a little harder on that bypass. But right now, you can go through there, what, 35, 40 miles an hour?
50 most of the time.
50, whatever, right downtown, I mean, it's just,
Yeah. Good point. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. Okay, number 2, downtown visual appearance. Work with landowners, business leaders, and community members to invest in remodels and new construction to create a beautiful and unique downtown character. Strategies include continue to regularly meet with and provide information on grants to land and building owners, something you're already doing. It's happening, but continue to do that. Seek and apply for grants to assist in remodels and facade improvements for buildings. Review and update zoning ordinances for buildings and landscape aesthetics. Does your ordinance really dictate what you want in terms of that new construction and design for downtown? Provide incentives to landowners and developers to improve the aesthetics of their properties on existing and new construction. Implement water-wise landscaping to beautify the downtown with trees, plants, and seasonal flowers. I know you already have quite a bit of that, but I think it's something you could do more of. And then the strategy D is a little bit open-ended because there's quite a bit of incentives out there, and I think that's something to always be thinking about. How can we incentivize investment into downtown? Any thoughts on strategies towards downtown visual appearance?
One thing that comes to my mind is I think there needs to be either incentives or something for the landowners to improve their parking areas in the back, because many of them are generations old, with potholes probably as old as I am. So
And as deep as you are.
and as deep, yeah. So I think there needs to be something done with that. I would like to see something added with that.
Okay.
And then some of them, like when you park in the back to go to the movie theater, it's awfully dark, and there needs to be, I think there needs to be more lighting involved, and just making it more welcoming.
Okay. More lighting, and especially from parking areas to the main street.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So these two pictures, the one on the left is Bountiful. Have any of you been to Bountiful Main Street? I think it's one of the best in the state. They do have that advantage that it's not a UDOT right away. And it is uphill challenge. So this question we had with UDOT 2 weeks ago, I asked them what the best UDOT Main Street was in the state in terms of a nice place to visit, good looking, businesses going good. That was good for pedestrians and business and also cars kind of going towards what we want. And it was kind of a long pause, and then they brought up, what's the town right before Zion? Springdale. That was their Springdale. Well, Springdale gets 3 million visitors a year. That's an economic boost or more. Actually, it's probably even more than that. It is kind of end of the line. You have to slow down there. And it's a national park, right? All kinds of advantages. And so I do think that this is a new process for UDOT to getting into actually caring more about than just the right of way and looking at what's on the sides and also looking at how can this be done better. So anyway, and then the one on the right is that's Ogden as well, kind of a nice traditional downtown. It's not Main Street, but similar. Okay, any other comments on downtown visual appearance?
Just a question,
Yeah.
pursuant to your one on the right, and I know this has come up.
Oh.
I've had business owners in the area that have talked about wanting to get back to this 45-degree parking.
Okay.
That's going to have the opposite effect of your traffic calming. So I think one of those needs to be solved first. I would love to get back to that for the business people's point of view. They're real easy to pull in, park, go do your thing, and then come in and leave. There's no possibility of that working under the current configuration of Main Street. It wouldn't be safe.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Working with Heber City on their downtown plan, and they're a little bit farther in the process with the bypass. UDOT has an EIS with, I think, 5 options, and they're actually looking at that. And if a bypass happens in Heber, you think about one, if you're coming from Park City and you get down before you hit Heber City where it gets busy, where the Smiths is, it comes out and around. Then what Heber is already talking about is they would take over ownership and management of Main Street in Heber City, and that would allow them to do that. St. George went through that process where the boulevard was UDOT facility. Now it's a city facility. They can slow down the speed. They can add all the trees. And if you've seen the boulevard down there, it's looking a lot better than it was a decade ago. And so I think that's a long-term idea, is if the bypass happens, a little less vehicles, then you have that wider right-of-way and you just have 2 travel lanes, and then you can go to 45-degree.
I was in, what's the name of the little town just this side of Price?
Helper?
Thank you. I love their downtown. I haven't seen anything better than that in the state. And it's all predicated on the fact that Highway 6 goes around and they're doing this. It's almost like a business loop. It seems like as much as I love everything that I'm seeing here, until we do something about that, none of the rest of this stuff is going to be very viable. And I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer. I think we start leaning on our electeds to get moved up the list, but we've got to have a plan for that.
I think you're absolutely right. There's a lot of little things, though, you can be doing and building and moving towards that, but certainly that's a big factor. The on-street parking, I mean, that's the best parking for businesses. There's studies that show those stalls produce a lot more money in terms of customers in and out and buying and all of that, because you're getting more stalls on the street. They're moving through quicker. You can even meter them, which can be a good thing in terms of visitors are using, just paying a little bit and moving through, and you don't want your employees out there all day, their cars out there all day, so you want that traffic moving through, and that's the way. And when I go to a place like Bountiful, today I was there getting my hair cut. I parked on Main Street on the 45-degree right out in front because it was open. If it wasn't, I would have been around back, and I think that's a typical pattern, is look for that on street and go there first and then be out.
Can I ask about the strategies for goal number 2? I may have missed it, but are design standards, architectural design standards for facade improvements, for signage, whether flush or perpendicular, or I don't know what you call it, extending from the facade, are they part of your strategies?
I do have in there the general category of ordinances, but I think I like the idea of adding signs. Those are called blade signs.
Blade signs.
That's one of the typical, is that right?
I think so.
Blade. There's another word for them too. Projecting. But certainly very popular in downtowns. I mean,
Historically, UDOT has had a problem with anything projecting into their right-of-way, but I think that's diminished now that they're concerned mostly curb to curb. Is that your experience, or?
I don't know the details on that. It'd be worth asking. But a lot of times those signs they're small. I mean, they're attached to the building. They're under an eave. You know, they're brought right in.
Right.
And they give a lot of character to a downtown. I mean, there's some really cool and funny ones in places like Jackson and Park City and Savannah and all kinds of. That's a way for the cool little downtown shops to be different with those signs.
I would suggest calling out design standards
Okay.
specifically, because if you don't, and the area does improve, then you will get reinvestment in all kinds of styles that are not consistent with each other or with the historic downtown feel, so.
Great, love it. I added those comments there. We'll add it as a strategy. Anything else before we move on? Okay, number 3, gathering places. Improve and develop additional outdoor gathering places that can host both large and small community events. Gathering places should be multifunctional and provide a sense of place to visitors and residents. And that's one way that downtown can be unique. I mean, the shopping centers and Walmart, I mean, they don't have places to gather and hang out, and that's what can make the downtown unique, especially for the whole county and valley. So some of the strategies, and here we get specific on some of these, but I think there's probably more we need from your input. Consider modifications to Veterans Park to be an active space, which creates additional reasons for people to visit again and again. Consider expanding the size of Veterans Park to optimize larger events. Maintain and improve Vine Street to continue to provide a unique role in the downtown area. Improve additional side streetscapes, businesses, and land uses to offer more options and a network of walkable and mixed-use streets. One thing that you have that is just absolutely amazing is your 2 alleys, your garden on the east and then your 50 on the west. Those 2 is just, I mean, they operate a little bit more like streets, but the fact that you have those going the whole way and connecting, that's a really good advantage in a downtown. And so you have the network. Now it's making it really nice for people walking and biking, and collaborate with the county to improve and develop the Main Street county-owned property. County property could become a regional gathering plaza. It's nice and big. It's just plain grass at this point. I mean, it's kind of a blank slate at this point. Create additional smaller gathering places for outdoor dining, street shopping, and local residents. Additional gathering places may include alleys, courtyards, parklets, and others. And a parklet is something like you wouldn't do it on Main Street now, but the side streets and the alleys where you go into the right-of-way and they have a nice little deck. You'll see it kind of in tourism downtowns. They'll have it's basically a wood deck or other material that's where a parking spot would be, and that's where the on-street dining would extend right into. And so you're going out in that right-of-way, and Park City has a bunch of them, Jackson, and it's just a great way it slows down traffic, but also kind of creates those little gathering places too. And it's good to have both the big ones and the little ones. So additional ideas on gathering. Let me show our pictures that I have here. There's one of those parklets on the left. That one's Jackson, I think. I don't know. And then the picture on the right is a plaza in Holiday. That was a street where you see the black and white squares, and so they closed down that street. It was a very weird, odd configuration, and Holiday is a great example of creating a downtown out of nothing. 15 years ago, maybe even 10, I mean, there was just a bunch of crappy 1950s, 60 buildings there, and the RDA did a lot of the work. They got land or work with landowners. They put money into these really nice buildings, created these plazas, and now the development is followed. I mean, there's way overpriced condos coming in and all kinds of amenities that are just building around this. And it is Holiday, but a good example of creating a downtown out of nothing. Have any of you been to the Holiday Village Center? They call it Village Center. When you're in Salt Lake sometime and in that area, go check it out. They got food trucks and just really nice. And that private investment has followed to make it happen. You know, once Harmon's built a nice little grocery store there. So a lot is going in. Okay, I'm going back here to our strategies for gathering places. Anything you would change or add here?
Just a question, maybe it's more for Jared. How much are you involving the county in this at this point?
So we're not that involved. You know, they've put it out to bid. I think it's, you know, at like $2.3 million.
Or is it 2.3?
2.3. So,
But that's on the buildings, right?
yeah, that's on the buildings, right? They're keeping the non-building portions of that property, and they are hiring a landscape architect to kind of redesign that space. So that's an opportunity we could come in and you know, maybe see if they want to collaborate on the design of that a little bit. But
That's why I asked the question, wondering if this isn't a good time to get them in early. And
Yeah.
let them be part of this vision.
I think that's a great point.
They've got a significant amount of frontage in that area, both the building and then up at their place.
Yeah. Yeah, this would be a great time to see if they want to collaborate on design, see if we can give some input there. Yeah, I agree. But it's not something we've done yet, so I appreciate you bringing it up.
And size-wise, it's quite a bit bigger than Veterans Park, right?
It's a little bigger.
Little bigger?
But not
Not
Tremendously, unless you count all that parking.
Right, okay. Okay, anything else on gathering places?
Do you address parking and other strategies?
We do, yeah, we do. We'll get to that. Saving the best for last. We're near the end. Okay, and we can come back to these at any point. All right, land uses. Develop a vibrant and mixed-use downtown with significant opportunities for businesses, residential living, and entertainment. Remove barriers to attract and develop additional downtown residential living opportunities. Housing choices should include a variety of options for both low income and high end. And we're not saying here it needs to be all one or the other, but just having housing choices. Consider water conservation policies to minimize the water impact of new development. Incentivize quality housing projects in downtown. Promote mixed-use buildings and development. Focus economic development efforts on expanding / retaining existing businesses. Advertise the changes to the area. Consider CRA if mixed use and housing can be enticed to locate in downtown. Also consider business improvement district. Work with local businesses to consider additional ways to make the downtown more business friendly. This may include a review of city ordinances and policies. Right now across the state, you know, development is kind of pausing a little bit with the interest rates going up. And certainly single family homes have slowed down 25% is what some builders are telling me. But I'm saying in terms of new permits and going, you know, the upstream stuff. But in terms of attached housing, still going full speed in terms of planning, design, permitting, all of that. And so the easiest and best way to get investment in your downtown is attached housing, whether that's condos or apartments. There's certainly a need for housing in Utah. We're about 31,000 units in the whole. If you've read anything about the housing gap in terms of more households than housing units, statewide it's about 31,000, so that's come down. Any thoughts on that? You already have a fair amount of businesses. You have the government facilities, all of that. And so I think it's adding more of the housing. Residents who live in a downtown spend 1.5 times more in a downtown than those that are driving in. So certainly the economics are there of that.
Crime rates reduced as well.
Yeah, crime rates are reduced. You get the eyes on the street. You get that active center. I mean, would you rather be in an alley or a street alone or with 20 or 30 people at night? I think there's certainly safety in numbers.
Tell me what a business improvement district is.
I'm going to bring in the guy that came up with it.
Well, I think that really would be kind of a special district that could be established, and it's an option of something to look into. There's like a fee associated with that then would be reinvested in that same area to make improvements that, there have to be some buy-in, and we got to figure out how to legally structure that, what that entails. So there's still some research to be done on what that would actually mean.
So that's not an existing state special district infrastructure funding mechanism?
No, I think it is an existing mechanism, but I don't know how widely it's used. So I
Or
don't.
if it fits this area.
Yeah, or if it fits the area, it could, but yeah.
And the great thing about a strategy is, put everything up there and try things out, and what sticks and works, keep going with it. Any thoughts on more housing downtown?
100%.
Bring it.
Yep.
Okay. And I think there's plenty that would like to do that. I mean, you look at this market, and it's probably a good market for that in terms of not having it. I've seen some other communities. Someone was looking at Riverton in Salt Lake County, a suburban bedroom community, and at a downtown property to do attached housing, and a developer was really excited telling me about it because it's one of those like blue ocean where there's a place there's not a lot of competition, there's not a lot of other, and so I think the first few developers that would come in to Tooele would be happy because they would be creating that and kind of first in the market in terms of a new housing project. And one other thing is, right now, a lot of cities want to see the mixed-use buildings. That ground floor retail would probably do just fine on Main Street, but even still, developers like that 2, 3, 4 stories of residential above, because that floats it. That's what pays the bills. That's what makes it financially happen. And then that ground floor retail is a little bit slush as things get going. It's the nice restaurant. It's part of the amenities making it happen. Oh, there's some pictures there. So that's Holiday again on the right. That's an apartment project that's 1 block away. That's a great place to also have it, is that 1 block away from Main Street. You could do it on Main, or it could be 1 block away. Okay, parking, here it is. Improve existing parking areas and alleys to create a network of alleys and parking lots for both pedestrians and vehicles. Create a plan to improve the alley and parking network. I have noticed, like Commissioner Newell said, there's a lot of asphalt areas. I was over by this restaurant over here a few months ago on 50 West, and I saw a very just a gigantic parking lot with some of those potholes, and it wasn't striped, it wasn't improved, and I think just by painting stalls and organizing, you could get quite a bit more. Identify and select specific alleys to be more pedestrian and business friendly. A lot of places are really focusing on alleys. Some of the cities that also struggle with a state highway being a downtown focus on those side streets. Logan Center Street is kind of redone itself. It's just absolutely amazing what the city's done there with Logan on that. And there's also the little alleys, and I'll show some pictures there, but those great little places that are off of Main where you can have the restaurants and talk and be quiet or listen. And I say that because a friend, we ate on Heber City Main Street a year ago, and it was a tiny little table like this, and we were yelling at each other, not because we were mad, because that's the only way to hear each other with all the traffic. And Highway 40 probably gets comparable numbers to your Main Street. Coordinate and improve shared parking opportunities for businesses, residents, and government organizations. Maximize parking resources without consuming unnecessary land for parking. There's a balance there. Too much parking is no good because parking by itself rarely produces any revenue. So you want to balance that of having just the right amount, really focusing on shared parking. Office uses are great during the daytime, but that residential at night, and so that's very compatible, having that shared parking. Review and update parking policies and ordinances. Coordinate with private landowners for alleys and parking to consider shared uses. Develop and implement a parking signage strategy to help visitors, residents, employees, and others easily find parking areas. I noticed tonight just driving around, a lot of parking available in the evening, just a matter of knowing where to find it. And you think about it, downtown, it's different than most conventional developments because, Kohl's, Best Buy, whatever, Walmart, you park in front. So sometimes people forget there's lots of parking downtown, you just have to drive around. And that's where having nice signs and arrows and little maps helping people just kind of understand the area. So when they come back a second time, they know places to go. So any thoughts on parking, things we're missing, want to change here?
I'd like to ask a question if I can.
Yes, please, Mr. Baker.
So having looked at the subdivision plats various times over the decades, the parking behind Main Street buildings is really a jigsaw puzzle, and often in those very shapes of all different ownerships. And some businesses are allowed to use certain portions of parking lots and not others, and it's hard for the public to know which one of the private lots they can use. Do you have a recommendation as to whether those should be acquired by the redevelopment agency and then improved, lighted, and perhaps low parking fees or free parking?
I definitely think that's the best case scenario, 100%. Then the city's looking at the parking as a utility, a shared utility, rather than a commodity of parking stalls owned by businesses and landowners. And then maybe the city can just throwing out an idea, maybe the city acquires them and then makes a deal with the landowner in terms of maintenance, improvements, access, parking, and then everybody shares that resource. Definitely. Bigger cities, not very many in Utah, but they do a parking authority. I don't know that couldn't necessarily be done at a local level, but I definitely think that's the best way to go. And I can add a strategy on that in terms of acquiring that. The other way, which is more painful, what you're talking about is agreements and contracts, and it just gets to be a tangled mess. And I think Tooele is a long ways away from needing structured parking, parking garages. Those are $25,000 a stall, where surface is a few $100s for painting improvements or 1,000 instead of that. At some point you might need those parking structures, but certainly going towards the shared parking, the on-street parking.
I wouldn't want to alarm downtown property owners with this discussion, but so maybe we don't have a strategy that says acquire the parking lots, but at least maybe a strategy that says to study the issue.
Study, and I could come up with something that's very, just looking at it as a community resource that's good for both public and private.
What Sandy has done in some of their areas, just off of Monroe Street and 90th, where Club 90 and Arby's and everything, what those business owners did was combined and made a PUD, and where the businesses retained their business footprint, but then all the parking area was put in as common areas, and was controlled by the HOA, so to speak, and which comprised of the business owners, and they maintained that parking area. And Club 90 got more parking. The State Liquor Store got more, and the Ocean Market got more, and so everybody won in the end. But it was a fight to get them to buy into the idea. But that's another possibility.
It's a great way. And sometimes it just ebbs and flows. If there's a Salt Lake Real game, I mean, it's really happening and busy.
Oh, don't park there. They will tow you.
You'll be paying, right? If you park there. Pay a little up front or a lot later. Any other ideas on parking? Okay. Oh, go back. Oh, here's some of that. Let's see. I'm going the wrong way. Okay. Here's some alley pictures right here. So that kind of parklet one on the left was actually in a parking lot. Put a nice little restaurant there and the wood and all of that. Alley there in the middle. It's a Utah City. I can't think of which one that was, but you'll notice it's a very typical, not that amazing alley, but shaded, adding nice tables for eating. It's going to be a quiet spot. That can go a long way in terms of creating those spaces. And back to Commissioner Sloan's point about what can we do until we have that Main Street, the alleys, that's one of the things that you can do and work on. And then a picture of signage there. Okay, last one here. Destination for activities and entertainment. Develop downtown as a regional destination with activities and entertainment for families, residents, and visitors. Really emphasis on that regional destination. Reason to drive all the way to the end of Main Street. Develop quality businesses and activity centers that will attract and benefit teenagers. So I've heard that teenagers need a place to go, so we specifically highlight them, but we get into others as well. Develop a unique downtown Tooele City brand that is known throughout the region, so an actual brand for downtown. Develop a program that plans downtown activities for more than 200 days a year. I know that Roger Brooks was here a few months ago. I watched that online, and that's something pulled from his playbook on that. But it really works, and it could be juggling or chalk art festival or just a reason to come downtown to attract. And you could hire somebody part-time, and that's what they do. They go out and find high school kids that won't have a garage band and want to play in downtown Tooele, and they'll come do it for free or for free food or something. Number D, continue to run and improve Tooele City's major downtown events and activities. Develop and promote new events for Main Street and downtown. Work with businesses, nonprofits, and Downtown Alliance when planning events. Create a capital improvements plan, identifying upgrades to existing venues and plan for new venues. Focus on businesses, restaurants, and entertainment to make downtown an experience. Back to the heart question, an experience. You know, with all the online retail that's happening, and certainly during COVID, everybody went online, and that's scaled back from 2 years ago. But a lot of shopping areas are focusing on that experience. You know, you have to give me a reason not to buy this on Amazon. I got to go look and have a nice experience getting outside. So this is the last one. Anything that we're missing or you want to change on becoming a destination?
Jared, does the new Boys and Girls Club building fall within this, or they're 310 South?
Right across
There's got to be a way to integrate that. They're doing that big, beautiful new building. You talk about teenagers.
How far, is it close? I mean, you could always change your downtown boundary. It's just a line on a map.
Because it fits the east-west.
Yeah.
Is it?
Pull that up.
Just, I mean,
Okay.
they're doing a beautiful project there. It'd be silly not to.
And that would incorporate Oak Brew too. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's right across the street.
Too.
It's a good plan.
Help brother out.
Yeah.
Play with the map, guys.
Oh,
Yeah, don't.
Because you've got a ton of property along Main Street there that's technically residential right now. A lot of it's run down, it's dilapidated.
Not doing a lot.
is it north or south?
South.
South. Okay. This way.
The best way.
The best
All the
way.
action's on the south end.
Okay.
We hope so.
That north end, no. You don't want to go past Lucky.
Considered too, like Okra Brews, maybe there's.
Exactly. Maybe we just need to look at expanding this a little bit, at least the possibilities, because, you know, Boys and Girls Club is going to do part of our job for us based on this strategy right here. It's going to attract, and it's a big enough facility that it's going to have something besides just the kids that don't have any place to go after school. This is a place they'll want to go after school.
Cool.
That would be a good collaboration with the Downtown Alliance and the Boys and Girls Club. If we need help with events and all that, we'll have volunteers.
Yep.
That's great.
Good point.
Okay.
Maybe one of your strategies would be collaboration with other public or nonprofit entities downtown, that are downtown.
Okay, great.
Well, you have that already, I'm sorry. Strategy D references that a little bit.
Yeah, work with businesses, nonprofits,
Okay.
planning events. Okay, we're covered then. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so that is it. There's some pictures there.
Daycare center.
That's from Park City.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was a little bit funny. You know, a restaurant there, and that's where restaurants, you know, that's what can make Tooele downtown unique and different, is having those unique restaurants rather than just a typical chain, and certainly places to gather. Okay. Are we missing any major goals? If there's something that you're just saying, we wanted to categorize them, but
So where does funding come into this plan? Do you identify funding strategies anywhere?
Yeah.
Or is that,
yeah, I think we probably maybe under each goal, we could list some funding strategies, because there'll be different funding sources pertaining to the different categories. Would that be, or would you rather have its own?
well, I guess what I'm doing is asking
Yeah.
of how broad is this plan meant to be? And is it meant to include implementation schedules or funding mechanisms? I just don't know, I'm kind of asking
Yeah,
you.
we have the CRA in there, the business improvement idea, the grants. There's probably some other ones that we can add. And there will be action items, and that's kind of, that's the to-do list. And it's a good practice by cities to review those action items once a year and being like, let's move these up to the top of our to-do list.
So your document will
Yes, or the other thing is just maybe
Investment.
an action list at the end for all of them. I mean, that could go either way. I don't know, because this will just be one chapter in your general plan. I'd almost put them all together, meaning the actions aren't necessarily category specific, unless you feel strong the other way. That's how I've done it before. Okay, anything else? Well, so we'll put these in poster format, and we'll have easels. And where's that going to be, Jared?
I think just in the atrium.
Right here in the atrium, March 2nd. I think we're looking at 5 to 7 p.m. We'll get a flyer out, and that can get distributed. We like the public to come, businesses, help us spread the word. And there'll be opportunities for people to interact on these ideas, and just kind of an open format. I'll bring 2 other planners with me, and we'll have Jared and others from the city that want to help us and just receive input. And then after that, you'll see a draft chapter document.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, Mr. Young, appreciate that. Thank you, Jared, for all your hard work.
We can get the scooters back at some point, right?
It's too bad.
Find a
Well, if we
different
do all
manner.
this stuff, you'll need scooters back.
Oh, yeah. All right. City council reports. You can go ahead and stand up.
What?
You can go ahead and stand up.
Okay.
Totally threw her off there. Did you see that?
It's not even funny. At our meeting, we followed your lead on the reassigning the land use designation to the 97-acre property that was out by the Army Depot. So we did not pass that. It was not approved. So I don't know where that will go from here, but that was not approved. And then in our work meeting, we discussed a little bit, this will probably be coming to you guys soon, so a heads up, including, if you'll remember a little while ago, we changed the residential treatment centers to be in general commercial center, in mixed-use centers. And there's been a request to add that to the GC zone, so just some discussion on that. And we talked about it a little bit in our work meeting, and that'll be explored by the staff and come to you if it's the next step. And that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for council?
Just thanks,
Thank you.
as always.
Communication's great, I appreciate it. All right, number 6 on our agenda is the review and approval of Planning Commission minutes for the meeting held on January 25th, 2023. Are there any additions, corrections? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve the minutes for the previous meeting.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Proctor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Commissioner Hammer. Commissioner Hammer, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Proctor?
Aye.
Commissioner Sloan? Aye. Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Newell?
Aye.
I am Chairman Hamilton. I also vote aye. That one passes 6-0. All right, and number 7 on our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Please do.
All right, motion from Commissioner Proctor. We are